Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Koki of the Seahawk Recap Show, and welcome to the 2024-2025 Seahawk season review. Hope you all are doing well. And yeah, just like last year, I'm going to go over the top performers from this 2024-2025 regular season for the Seahawks, and then I'm going to go over some of the offensive stats and defensive stats for this team and see where it ranks. And we got a little bit other stuff to talk about in this video. Without me rambling on too much more, let's get into this Seahawk review, season review. And man, I just gotta say that I was really impressed this season. If you like these videos, please make sure you give it a like. It lets me know if I'm doing a good job on these videos or not. And if you'd like to see any more future Seahawks content from this channel, please consider subscribing. That would be greatly appreciated. The 2024-2025 season summary. And let's start off with the rankings of everything. So, record 10-7 record, second in the NFC West. And if you remember back to my season predictions video at the start of the 2024-2025 season, you'll understand that I said a ceiling for this team, the highest wins that I think they were going to achieve was a 10-7 record, and they hit it on the head. They got second in the NFC West. So, all in all, I think this is a very good first season under Mike McDonald. Let's get to the offensive ranking, and they ranked 14th in offense. Points for, they ranked 18th with 375 total yards. They ended up 14th at 5,647 on downs. Third down, they were 21st in the league, 79 for 210, which gives them a 37.6% on third down. That's not too bad, honestly, considering I think it would have been better if they could get the run game going on third down. That number would be a little bit higher. But on fourth down, they were 22nd in the league, 10 for 19, giving them 52.6% on fourth down. Not really surprised. Fourth down, usually you don't see a lot of teams go for it on fourth down. Not bad for the downs considering percentages. Let's get to the passing rankings and let's get to the total yards. They were eighth in the league this year, 4,020 yards passing this year. Considering Ryan Grubb has more of an air raid style offense, he liked to air the ball out, and you saw that a lot this season. So the passing stats will look great. The rushing stats and rankings not so much, but 21st in touchdowns with 21 overall, and that needs to improve. I think the red zone offense was still a struggle from last year heading into this year, and it's still a struggle, so hopefully that'll be fixed for 2025 and 2026. Interceptions, they were seventh in the NFL, 16 interceptions this year. And man, that's just how it is. You know, Geno Smith threw 15 interceptions this year. Most of those interceptions were in the red zone. Don't know what else to say about it, really. That's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Let's get to the rushing rankings. Attempts 29th in the league, 383 attempts on the run. And man, it's just one of those things. Ryan Grubb, air raid offense, not going to see much in the run game. And the run game was inconsistent this year, I must say. And that shows in these stats. Yards per attempt, we were 19th, 4.2 yards per attempt. Total yards, they were 28th, 1,627. That is kind of unacceptable. I would expect them to be up around 2,000, considering that they have Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. They have a good running back room. They just didn't seem to use it. It's still been an issue. And in touchdowns, they were 12th in the league with 17. At least they got the rushing touchdowns. At least in the end zone, they were using their runners and the backs to get touchdowns. So at least that's something good to come out of this rushing attack. And let's get to defense. 14th total ranked in defense. Let's get to the points allowed. They were 11th, 368, and 11th in the league, man. Not too shabby. Would have liked that number to be a little bit lower, maybe near the bottom. That would have been great. But yards allowed, they were 14th, 5,656 total yards allowed. But here is where it all changes on the downs. Third downs, they were 10th in the league on defense. They only allowed 83 third down conversions out of 224. That is excellent, giving them a 37.1% rate on third down stops. That is actually very good to see that that problem has been addressed since Pete Carroll left. Good to see from this Mike McDonald defense. I can't wait to see what they do next year. And on fourth down, they were seventh, 10 for 20, 50%. That's also great. Stopping teams on third down and fourth down are so crucial. In pass coverage, total yards allowed, they were 11th, 3,603. Touchdowns allowed, they were 11th, 26. And interceptions, they were 14th with 13. I didn't actually expect when I looked at this for stats wise yesterday, they had 13 interceptions this year. Very surprised. So I'm happy with these numbers. In pass coverage, it looks pretty good. For a first year head coach, these are the kind of stats that you love to see. Considering that Pete Carroll last year had one of the worst defenses in the league, this is a breath of fresh air, and it's only going to get stronger from here when the years go on. Let's get to the run defense, and this is where it matters. Last year's run defense was terrible, and it took a little bit for the run defense to get better, and it did eventually. Attempts run against this defense, they were 14th, 451. Yards allowed, 16th, 2,053. Yards per attempt, they were 10th, 4.6. And touchdowns allowed, they were 26th in the league, 11 touchdowns allowed all season on the run defense. That is awesome to see right there. That is 36 touchdowns allowed from this Mike McDonald defense. That is insane. This is good for the defense. And imagine when Mike McDonald has a lot more of his own player personnel in there. That's going to be great. Let's get to the top performers. First of all, let's start off with offense. Obviously, for passing, it's going to be Geno Smith. Started all 17 games this year, 407 completions versus 578 attempts at a 70.4% completion percentage, breaks his own record set in 2022. He holds a new record for himself, 4,320 passing yards. That is exceptional, considering that Ryan Grubb loved to air it out, and Geno Smith delivered. Average 7.5 yards per passing attempt. That just shows you how lethal this passing attack really was for the offense. And again, 21 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Most of those were in the end zone, those interceptions. Touchdowns, a little bit low. I was very surprised by how little of scoring offense in terms of Geno. Like this last year, I was expecting Geno to have 30 touchdowns, possibly, considering how the year was going. And he only ended up with 21. So I guess you could say you're a little disappointed, but it is what it is. The 15 interceptions, you need to get better. Geno, you need to start taking care of the ball. Last year, you only had 9 interceptions. This year, you have 15. It's not a great look, and you need to take care of the ball a little bit more. I expect that to happen next year if he's still on the team. Geno Smith ended off the year being sacked 50 times. That just can't happen. I'm just going to say it outright right now. There's no reason why Geno Smith should be sacked 50 times, especially at 35. That's not good. The rushing attack, and let's get to Kenneth Walker the third being the top rusher. 11 games played, had 153 carries, 573 yards, averaged 3.8 yards per carry, and 7 touchdowns. Man, injury hit him hard this season. There are 18 weeks, there are 17 games, and he missed 6 of them with injuries throughout the lineup. Luckily, Zach Charbonnet was being used, and he got almost the rushing leader top performer this year. He was like a couple of yards. I think he has 569 yards, so he's a couple yards shy of that marker. And one thing I got to point out with Kenneth Walker is that his stats will reflect how the offensive line played. If the offensive line can't create gaps for Kenneth Walker, his stats are going to suffer. And that's why his yards per rush were so low this year, 3.8. That's not great. And that's a testament to the Ryan Grubb style scheme when using Kenneth Walker. Just couldn't draw up some explosive outside runs for Kenneth Walker to utilize this year. But ultimately, I think Kenneth Walker had a good season. Hopefully, we'll see if he can stay healthy. He played 15 games last year, 15 games his rookie year. So hopefully, he'll bounce back in year 4 and play a full 17 games next year. The star of the show and my breakout player for this season, Jackson Smith-Njigba leads the Seahawks in receiving, 17 games played, 100 receptions, 1,130 yards, averaged 11.3 yards per reception, had 6 touchdowns. And that is absolutely brilliant. I wanted Jackson Smith-Njigba to show why he was picked at 20th overall last year in his rookie year, and he showed up. The second-year player out of Ohio State has become the quintessential number 3 slot wide receiver for Geno Smith and this Seahawks offense. I love him. I loved his ability. He just had a great season. I hope he keeps it up next year. Let's get to the top performers on defense. Tackles. Julian Love takes that title. 17 games played, had 70 solo tackles, 30 assisted, 3 tackles for loss, totaling 100 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles. Man, Julian Love was great this year. For a safety, you want a guy that can stop wide receivers. You want a guy that's not afraid to tackle, and he did very, very well this season. Great to see Julian Love paying off his extension that he got in the offseason, staying for another 3 years, 17 games played. Great to see from Julian Love. Sack leader, and it's Leonard Williams, 16 games played. I can't believe it was only 16 games. I don't know which game he missed, but he had 33 solo tackles, 27 assisted, 16 tackles for loss, totaling 64 tackles, 11 sacks, the 1 interception, and the 1 big man pick 6. The Jets game, that was a thing of beauty. And Leonard Williams, oh my, do I love this guy all season long. If you've seen any of my Seahawk game recaps, I cannot go more than 2 videos discussing Leonard Williams on this D line, how important he was for this pass rush this season. And that's why he paid the big bucks last year. It's just so nice to see Leonard Williams giving his all this season after his extension kicks in. Great leader. I'm assuming a great person within the locker room and just love his game. Keep it up, Leonard Williams. The interception leaders. Now, we had a three-way tie for first, but I give to Kobe Bryant this season. Another safety, 17 games played, 44 solo tackles, 23 assisted, one tackle for loss, totaling 68 tackles, three interceptions, one touchdown, and one forced fumble. Got a pick six, did the Marshawn Lynch celebration when he got the pick six. And man, Kobe Bryant, what a breakout year for this guy. Remember, Kobe Bryant was brought in and he was a corner. He was a nickel corner. He makes the transition to safety in Pete Carroll's last year, and now he's in at safety and he's playing phenomenal there alongside Julian Love. So great breakout year from Kobe Bryant. Love to see it. Can't wait to see him next year. Let's get to the thing that I did last year, and I'll do every single season from now on when I do the Seahawk season reviews, the 2025 cap situation. So 2025 cap space as of January 8th, which was yesterday, is $16.199 million. The Seahawks have 10 players on expiring contracts. Some big names include Ernest Jones, Jaron Reed, Josh Jobe, and Laken Tomlinson. And last year, I was trying to figure out how to sign a lot of these players, and we needed to make some cuts. So I picked four players this season that I would consider cutting post June 1st, and I'll give my reasons for cutting these players. Longtime Seahawks legend wide receiver Tyler Lockett saving $17 million in cap space for this season. My reason for cutting this player. Man, this one really sucks, but I don't think Tyler Lockett can remain a Seahawk next season just due to his cap hit of $30.8 million. With the emergence of Jackson Smith and Jigba as a slot receiver, Tyler Lockett's role on this team has kind of diminished, and we saw that this season. 49 receptions, 600 yards, two touchdowns, all career lows since his rookie season. And although I hate this, the NFL is a business. That money, that $30.8 million cap hit is just way too much for someone of Tyler Lockett's caliber now in his career. He's a third wide receiver. And although he's a third wide receiver that is very good, usually you do not see three-headed wide receiver trios have all three wide receivers be exceptional players and you're able to keep them all together for very long. And sadly, I think Tyler Lockett knows this. Tyler Lockett last year restructured his contract so that he could play his 10th season in the NFL with the Seahawks. And he intends, by all reports, to play at least one more season next year. And because he did the restructure this year, I would not expect Tyler Lockett to take another pay cut to stay here. And I think he's going to do what Seahawks legends Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson have done, and they go to try and win somewhere else for one last ride. I would expect Tyler Lockett to go to a contending team and try to win a ring if that's what he so desires. I hope wherever Tyler Lockett goes, I hope if he can stay a Seahawk, he'll do it. But I wish him all the best. He is a Seahawk legend forever and one of my favorite players from the Legion of Boom days until now. Next up, let's talk about quarterback Geno Smith. You would be saving $31 million in cap space this season. And my reason for cutting this player. Let me start off by saying that I do not actually think that this will happen. However, if the Seahawks did decide to cut Geno Smith, they'd be saving $31 million in cap space this year. This would also give John Schneider the chance to see if Sam Howell is ready to return to a starting role after sitting behind Geno for a year. Geno is also 35, so I don't see him sticking around in the NFL too much longer. And although I don't think it's going to happen, I'll reiterate that repeatedly. I think after we saw that Don Schneider traded for Sam Howell for a third and I believe a sixth last offseason, I think it's time that Geno Smith hand over the reins to a much younger quarterback. And Sam Howell's already got tools under his belt. He's already been a starter for the Washington Commanders. He's now under a system that he's now gotten used to for a year, and he'll not come in as cold, I don't think. Another player I would consider cutting, it's linebacker Draymond Jones, saving $16.5 million. My reason for cutting this player. This year, I think Jones's time with the Seahawks is up. This season, Draymond switched positions to edge and outside linebacker from defensive end. Sadly, this change did not really help him as he had pretty poor season statistically. 25 total tackles, 4 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 safety. We're at a point now where Draymond switched positions because he didn't feel like he was getting the production that he wanted from himself. And so he switched positions and still didn't get the production. He also got put into a rotational role alongside Derek Hall. And with his cap hit being $25.6 million, I would expect him to be on his way out this offseason. And that sounds harsh, but look at it this way. You save $16.5 million. And in the Seahawks locker room, you have a bunch of edge players who can fill in the Draymond Jones role. You have Oyamafe. You have Uchenna Nwosu, who just came back from injury and looks like he's going to be ready to go for next season. And then you have the emergence of Derek Hall, who really put in a stellar season under Mike McDonald's tutelage and actually had a really good season. So I think Draymond Jones at 28 is the most likely option to get cut this offseason just because of his cap hit. You don't really need him anymore, and you could probably find another rotational guy in the edge department to take over that spot in free agency. My last player I wanted to highlight for cutting for cap reasons, it was tackle George Fant. You would save $3.8 million if you cut him in savings. And my reason for cutting this player is pretty simple. George Fant is old at 33 for a tackle, and his cap hit is $5.6 million. And although Fant was brought in initially last offseason to be injury insurance for Abraham Lucas, he ended up being put on IR, and Michael Jarrell took over as the backup right tackle. And that ultimately signifies to me that the Seahawks, in a pinch, do have in-house guys from the draft who can play in a pinch in a backup role and will get better over time. I see George Fant's time with the Seahawks ending. With these 4 cuts, the Seahawks would have $52 million in cap space to spend in free agency and sign some of those big names like Ernest Jones, Jaron Reed, and Laken Tomlinson. And don't forget Josh Jobe. So my final thing I wanted to talk about on today's video was, where do we go from here? Honestly, I'm super happy with how the season turned out under Mike McDonald and the new regime. Now you just need to keep building off of this momentum and start to bring in some of the new player personnel that will better fit the Mike McDonald system. If I was GM of the Seahawks, here's where I would focus this offseason. First off, you need to find an offensive coordinator, considering that Ryan Grubb is no longer there. And at the present moment, I would have no idea who that would be. However, it would need to be someone who would not shy away from using the run game. Like I stated earlier, having an air raid type of offense in the modern NFL can work. It's just very seldom because you need some sort of a run game to make sure you keep posing defenses guessing. Because if you're just throwing it down 50 times a game, defenses in the NFL will adjust to that and they'll stop bringing their linebackers in the box. They'll move them out into coverage and then they'll blanket the field. So you need to find an offensive coordinator that can use a good, healthy amount of the run game while still being able to find that balance between the two. Next up, you need to keep developing the players that you have on the offensive line to try and establish some balance between run and pass options on offense. And maybe grab two more corners for depth purposes to replace Trey Brown and Artie Burns, who both have contracts coming up this offseason. Anyways, guys, that is it for this 2024-2025 Seahawk season review video. I'd like to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. How do you think this season has gone and what would you give it a rating of? Because I'm super happy. What did you like? What did you dislike? It's been a fantastic season. So I can't wait to see what the off season brings for the first year head coach and the new regime of the Seattle Seahawks. Anyways, guys, I will see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves. The Hawks go and have a great rest of your day.